Welcome to Culture Screen, where we analyze culture. In this episode, we're summarizing the 4th episode from Season 5 of the Sopranos series titled All Happy Families. The episode first aired on March 28, 2004. In the beginning, the Leotardo brothers pay Lorraine Caluso a second visit. This time, however, they go straight to her house because Lorraine Caluso has continued to pay her tribute to little Carmine even after her mock execution and warning from Phil Leotardo for not siding with Johnny Sack. While she is taking a shower, Billy Leotardo enters the residence with Joey Peeps and they take out Lorraine's boyfriend Jason. They find Lorraine in the bathroom taking a shower. After chasing her around the house, she stumbles upon the corpse of her boyfriend and realizes she is not making it out of her home alive. When little Carmine is made aware of the news that Lorraine has been hit, his counselor, Rusty Milio, advises little Carmine to retaliate on Johnny Sack's crew. As news of the New York conflict reaches New Jersey, we see Feach LaManna shows up to speak to the fellas. Tony and the crew discuss the potential consequences they may face as a result of the New York power struggle going on between little Carmine and Johnny Sack. Feach then asks for Tony's permission to manage the executive card game he used to run with Jackie Aprile and Silvio. As we catch up with AJ and Carmela, we see AJ's behavior continues to deteriorate and his academic performance also continues to decline as a result of living alone with Carmela. AJ finds out from Mr. Wegler, his advisor, that he may have a learning disability. This scene reminds us of a similar scene Tony and Carmela had in Season 1, where school personnel tried to make them aware that AJ had a learning disability early on. We see AJ is happy with the news because it means he will be able to use it to his advantage. AJ knows he will be able to have an easier academic life due to his quote-unquote disability. In this scene, we see how Tony's actions and neglect of AJ is what has led him down this road he is on. The marriage issues between Tony and Carmela, as well as their neglect together, have deeply affected AJ from the start of the series. In another scene, a fatal accident involving a student from AJ's school occurs. A student is killed in a car crash, and Tony decides to buy AJ a Nissan Xterra as a result. Tony also feels a bit guilty over his breakup with Carmela, and this drives him to be a lot nicer to AJ than ever before. Tony ends up interrupting a tutoring session and personally delivers the SUV to AJ. We see AJ is immediately distracted from his studies and Carmela does not like the gift. Carmela feels the car is not going to help AJ academically and will only lead to further spoiling him. As a result of this, Tony and Carmela argue again, and Carmela brings up the fact that Tony has no real friends, rather only men who hang around him to gain power or financial gain. Tony, of course, disagrees with Carmela and does not believe Carmela's opinion. In a later scene, Tony goes to one of the executive card games now being hosted by Feach LaManna under his permission. At the game, Tony notices Feach is entertaining the crew with silly jokes that aren't really that funny. As a way of testing out what Carmela told Tony earlier on, Tony decides to share a joke that he knows is not really all that funny, and to his surprise, everyone laughs, thus confirming what Carmela said to be true. Later on, AJ asks Carmela to go to a music concert in New York City. He says his friends will be staying at a hotel afterwards. Carmela refuses at first, but then suggests he can go if he sleeps over at Meadows after the concert is over. Here we see how both Tony and Carmela are fighting to win over AJ's favor rather than AJ having to win the favor of his parents, and the only one who truly gets negatively affected by this is AJ. Remember, I am summarizing the entire series, so subscribe and click on the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. I will be reviewing other TV shows and movies as well. Let me know what you would like me to summarize in the future in the comments section below. Also, follow us on Instagram and Twitter for additional content. Support us on Patreon. I thank you for your support. Doing these things helps my channel out tremendously. In the end, Carmela folds and allows AJ to go to the concert. Even though Carmela requires AJ sleep over at Meadows, AJ ignores Carmela's order and goes to the hotel anyway. Carmela is seen calling Meadow to see how AJ is doing, and Meadow ends up covering for AJ. The next time Carmela calls Meadow, she simply ignores the phone call. When we catch up with AJ, we see him laid out on the floor, and both his eyebrows have been shaved off his face and redrawn using a marker. AJ then finally heads home and ignores Carmela when she calls for him. AJ brushes off Carmela and she yells at him. As she tries to follow him upstairs, she ends up tripping and injuring herself. Tony stops by to speak to AJ, but Carmela grows upset, especially after seeing Tony take AJ's side from the very beginning. AJ's lack of empathy for Carmela causes her to suggest AJ should live with Tony instead of continuing to live with her, since her approach is clearly not working. From this interaction, we see how futile it is for Tony and Carmela to try and discipline AJ independently. As we catch up with Feach Lamanna, we see he overheard Ira Fried, one of the players in his executive card game, mention his daughter will be getting married soon. This prompts Feach to devise and execute a massive carjacking at Ira's daughter's wedding. As soon as this happens, Ira goes to visit Tony at the Bada Bing, and he ends up calling Feach and holding a meeting with him. At the meeting, Feach tells Tony that only made guys are untouchable, and that because Ira Fried is not a family member, he is allowed to make money off of him. Tony understands Feach, but has to reassert his position as boss of the family. Tony tells Feach that things go according to what he says, not some rule book. Feach ends up apologizing, and he tells Tony that he still sees him as a kid. Silvio is shocked to see Feach turning over a new leaf. However, Tony remembers back when he said the joke at the executive card game. Feach was the only one who did not respond positively to the joke. While the other guys laughed at Tony's half-baked joke, Feach showed little response. This serves as a direct display to Tony that Feach is truly an insubordinate and dangerous fellow to have around. This entire scene reminds Tony of Richie Aprile, and he quickly decides to stop Feach early before he grows out of control and leads to further issues or even a potential split in the family. Tony decides to send Christopher over to Feach's house carrying a truck full of stolen goods. Christopher confides in Feach that they need a place to store the truck in the meantime. Feach agrees to have it stored in his garage when suddenly his parole officer makes a surprise visit and asks to check the property. In the following scene, we see this offense sends Feach back to prison, where he can no longer be a threat to Tony. As we catch up with AJ, we see at first he loves spending time with Tony, Artie, and Blondetto. This all comes crashing down on him when he sees just how aggressive Tony can be at making him complete his schoolwork on time. As Carmela returns home, she is now alone in her home, and her family is officially broken. That was episode number 56, titled All Happy Families. To watch the next or previous episode summary, click on the link in the description or at the end of this video. Also consider supporting us on Patreon, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. See you on the next one.
Park the load here, this way I'm around. Keep my glimpse on the stuff.
We upload new videos every week, so subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the like button as well. Click the notification bell to be notified of when we upload these videos. See you on the next episode of Culture Stream.